I think whether it's Brexit or what may happen in the Spanish election on this weekend, on Sunday, the Austrian election that we had a few weeks ago, the political realities of the United States with a very strong candidate with Bernie Sanders, and we have Donald Trump. I think all of this is a reflection of anger. And I think the anger, conventional wisdom has been wrong in misinterpreting this anger. And I said earlier in another meeting that I think we're misrepresenting, because we don't see rioting on the street anymore related to this anger, but you do now see digital rioting. If you pay attention to some of the media feeds, the social media feeds, you could read some of the anger that people have had and obviously voted that way, and conventional wisdom was wrong again. I want to put that in the context of Argentina, because I do believe there are democracies and there are countries that are actually trying to arrest the anger and build a better future. And I think what the Macri government has done in just a 6-month period of time has really, obviously 6 months, so it's not a long-term record yet, but in the first 6 months has really shown what a government can do if it is focusing on trying to change the future of its country and changing the future of its population. Today is about a change in direction, and that change in direction in Argentina, and so that's the context of what I think we're here about, and Alfonso's presentation really did describe much of the changes within Argentina. And it's very clear that Argentina, because of past governments, was an isolated country. Capital markets were not functioning. Foreign capital was running away. And as you could see in a very short period of time with the debt issue, that if you have a government that is challenging what was considered that could not be done, especially in Argentina, we could see that bold government can change the future. What is happening in the streets of Argentina? Can you describe, do people recognize what you and the Macri government have done? Is there a sense of optimism in the street?
Well, thank you, Larry, for being here. It's an honor for me, and for your first thought about what's going on around the world. I mean, you mentioned the word anger, anger that is, asking for change. And I think to some extent, and connecting it to your question, this was actually what happened last year in Argentina. It was massive change that the voter asked for, even if many of those voters were on social programs. It was not enough for them to be on a social program, because it was quite obvious for them that that was a roof, a glass ceiling that would not allow them to progress. Otherwise, you cannot quite possibly explain how President Macri won the elections. I mean, there was anger against the failure of yet another populist exercise in Argentina. And this is the hope that we hope to incarnate going forward. So essentially, what we see right now in the streets and in the public opinion, of course, the opinions are still very divided, and this is not unlike the rest of the world. We need to get used to elections that get won by 2 or 3 points. That was the case of Brexit. It was our case as well. President Macri is very aware that one of the main challenges that we've got going forward is to unify that division. And we think we're making progress in that direction. We've been very clear and transparent about the heavy cleaning that we had to do in the first few months. What we've done was basically what we had been promising during the campaign.
if you scan the blogs of Argentina, would you see less what I call digital rioting?
Well, I think digital rioting is the order of the day, you know, isn't it? I mean, you don't get too hooked up with Twitter, because otherwise, you know, you don't get started.
We'll all be depressed.
But no, as I said before, you know, there is still division. I mean, there is still division. There was one difficulty that we found was that when we took office, there were all the ingredients of your typical Argentinian economic, financial, and social crisis were there, but the crisis itself. So the challenge that we took on very early on was to defuse the many, you know, bombs that were left around the minefield, and it was hard. It was harder to do it without any of those actually, you know, exploding beforehand, which had been the case for other administrations in the past. So basically, it's very important for us to communicate what was the route Argentina was going to through or to if we didn't take the measures that we actually taken. And I think President Macri was very clear about this when a couple of months ago he said, well, had we not taken the decisions that we've already taken, we would have gone in the direction of Venezuela. Mm-hmm. And I think that needs no further explanation.
Is that known now with the populace? Is there a rise of consumption, or are you seeing indication that that the populace believes we're on the right path now, and that they're showing that through consumption?
They're showing that through the opinion polls, not quite yet through consumption, because some of the changes that needed to be made have been disruptive in the short run.
Right.
But what we're seeing is that finally local businessmen are finally buying into the idea. So are foreign investors. I mean, we keep track of the announcements that are big enough to make it to the press. Over the last 6 months, we've got $22 billion worth of investment announcements, both from local and foreign companies. There are even bigger announcements, but for the very long run, which we're not putting into this list. So I think it's, you know, it's obviously mixed feelings within a very divided society. But there's also and I must mention this, there's also the quite obvious corruption behavior of the previous administration,
right,
that's surfaced in a way that we wouldn't have thought was actually possible. I mean, a guy found at 4 a.m. in the morning, you know, throwing bags full of money around the wall of a convent, of all places, right. You know. It's not something that, you know, even a movie director would have thought of.
Well, I think we heard today why many of us believe that there's a turnaround in Argentina, and in a day like today with Brexit and all the instabilities, we have a finance minister who is forward-thinking and a government that is looking to build a better future. And I think what Alfonso in his response has only reconfirmed, I think, the market's view. So, Alfonso, thank you, and I know we have many more sessions later today.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Susan.